Oh, get him out of here! Get him out of here!
Hey, I'm Michael Jackson. Yo, what is up, guys? It is your boy, Super Criminal, coming at you with another video. I know you missed me. In honor of the new Michael Jackson movie coming out. I think that mother's made like 900 million. So, in honor of the new Michael Jackson movie, we're gonna watch the many beefs of Michael Jackson. So I was watching the movie, right? And there was this scene, and if you go see it, if you haven't seen it, well, I don't know, they might still, I ain't getting this video copyrighted. Fuck you, I'll describe it. So there's a video in the movie where Miles Teller, say that again?
Say that again?
He's in it. He's in the movie, and he's sitting at the office table. Mike is sitting there, right? And he's wearing his glasses, and I loved it. I loved everything about it. The cinematography, the pacing, the way Mike was just in the room. So, mind you, the entire movie, Mike was just nice guy. Mike's known for being nice. He's known for being a nice guy, but he was giving major boss energy, and I loved it. I loved every second of it. I can't lie. I was like, oh, bro's really controlling the traffic. Like, all right. You guys already know what to do. Grab your snacks, hit that thumbs up button, and let's get started.
When you think about Michael Jackson, you probably think of a soft-spoken, charitable, and kind artist. And while all of that may be true, what a lot of people don't realize is that he could be a little cutthroat, especially when it came to beefs and business,
I remember
which
that.
inevitably led to him having some serious back and forths with
Beatles,
his fellow artists, with some
Eminem.
labeling him cold as ice. So join me today as we look into the many beefs of Michael Jackson. When Michael Jackson and Eminem beefed, it was pretty surprising. Not only because they're some of the biggest names in the music industry, but also because of the weird ways they went about taking shots at one another. M and Mike's relationship had its first road bump back in 2003. This is when M was in Glasgow for a show, where at his hotel with tons of paparazzi watching, he dangled and tossed around a baby doll out of his window. Without context, you're probably wondering, what does that have to do with Michael? Well, a few months earlier, MJ was in Berlin for an awards ceremony, and for whatever reason, he dangled his 8-month-old son out the window. Mike faced some obvious backlash for this terrible mistake, which led to him...
Mike, I didn't know you did. Oh, gee. Mike. Oh, Mike, I didn't know Mike dangled the baby out the damn window.
eventually apologizing, saying, "I got caught up in the excitement of the moment. I would never intentionally endanger the lives of my children." This is a weird thing to do regardless of excitement. Maybe he was just trying to show the kid off to the crowd. That could be it. I don't know. But what's important is that it was a pretty bad public moment for Michael, which he took a decent amount of criticism for. And that's why Eminem mocked him. So you could see how this would start a bit of a rift between Michael and M, who weren't even friends before any of this. But Eminem decided to take it a step further. In 2004, Eminem dropped the song Just Lose It as the lead single for his album Encore. Along with the song was a music video which had multiple scenes clearly mocking Michael. But it wasn't just the video that stirred things up, because when you look into the lyrics, M goes at Mike with some pretty wild subliminals.
I'm sorry,
Early in the
Eminem
song's
was funny
intro,
back
M
in the
says,
day.
"Alright, stop, pajama time." This isn't just some MC Hammer pun. He's instead referring to the 2003 Michael Jackson documentary Living with Michael Jackson, in which Mike discussed letting kids sleep in his bed. And throughout the rest of Just Lose It, M continued to take more digs at Michael and his case, saying things like, "Guess who's back with a brand new rap?" And I don't mean rap as in a new case of child accusations. "I done touched on everything but little boys, and that's not a stab at Michael, that's just a metaphor. I'm just a psycho." Obviously, the Michael Jackson allegation.
All right. No, because if I ever was to blow up, people would watch this and say, why didn't you speak on it? Here's my opinion on the whole situation. All right, let's get into it. Oh, shit. If I ever make it, this will be clipped. Serious. I don't think Mike touched the kids. Peep gang, though. Peep gang. Hold up. The nigga, I would be lying if I didn't say the nigga is weird. I mean, it's not weird. The nigga's weird, man. Christmas.
Yo, shout for season, man.
I'll just decide, man. The way he talks, I can kind of, I've heard rumors. I don't think he was castrated or none crazy stuff like that. I don't think those kids are his. Those are not his kids. I'm sorry. You not finna look at them kids and tell me those are his damn children, bro. No. Niggas, we got strong genes. I was watching a movie and I was like, damn. I said, damn, I look like Mike Daddy. Pause.
Say that again.
Damn, I really look like Mike Dad. Like, I'm gonna put his face beside mine. You ready?
I knew it.
Then I said, damn, maybe Mike was on to something.
Were a huge thing at the time, and while eventually he was found not guilty, Eminem making fun of this probably didn't make him feel so good. Apparently Michael tried to get the song banned at first, but that didn't end up working, so he eventually spoke on how he felt about the bold jokes made at his expense.
I've never met Mr. Eminem, and to have him, I've always admired him, and to have him do something like that was pretty painful as an artist to another artist. And it's sad because, well, I think what Stevie Wonder said is true. And I just don't want to say too much more than that. But he should be ashamed of himself.
His childhood got ripped away from him.
I've never attacked another fellow
people
artist.
Should never forget
Great
that,
artists
bro.
don't do that. You know, you don't have to do that.
Michael was clearly frustrated by the song, understandably so, and in response to Michael's frustration, Eminem was actually honored and explained the whole reason behind Just Lose It's creation.
Yeah, that wasn't intentional, but I'm just happy that Michael heard of me, you know?
That's the kind of cool side of it.
The fact that he's heard of me is you know, that does me enough. But like the personal things, you know, that was not planned. It was making no personal judgment on Michael Jackson. It was not, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was completely meant to be all in jest.
The beef up until this point was pretty one-sided, and after this, it went pretty silent. That was until in 2007 when things subtly reignited behind the scenes with Michael's Sony ATV publishing partnership. This group already owned a significant amount of projects for major artists, but then they secured Viacom's famous music catalog for $370 million, which included a lot of Eminem's back catalog. Some fans theorized that this was all a part of Michael's get back for Just Lose It. While the purchase of famous music included some famous names like Shakira, Eminem was considerably one of the most valuable, with hits like Without Me and The Real Slim Shady now being owned by Michael's publishing partnership. A lot of people like to make it seem like Michael Jackson just kind of went out there and bought only Eminem's catalog, which was not the case. So even if the move wasn't meant as direct revenge, it's still a pretty funny and wild way to end the beef. And like I said, there isn't really any concrete evidence that the purchase was made solely to spite M, but it has become a trend for Michael to buy the music of those he beefed with, because he did it again to Paul McCartney of the Beatles. Unlike with Eminem, Paul McCartney and Michael Jackson actually started out as friends. In the early 70s, they first started working together, with Paul somewhat taking Mike under his wing. As the years went by, the two continued collaborating, eventually growing so close that Michael would stay with Paul and his wife while recording in London. In the early 80s, they recorded multiple songs together, including Say 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 and The Girl Is Mine, which is
such an amazing song,
which both ended up going platinum.
Michael originally fancied writing some stuff with me, and I thought it was a good idea. So he came over here to England, and we just hung out for a little while and got to know each other a bit, and ended up writing 2 songs.
One night at dinner while Michael was living with Paul in London, the two started talking about publishing and song ownership. During this conversation, Paul took out a notebook which had a list of all of the songs he owned publishing rights to.
I said, you got to get a really good manager, because it's all going to be coming in and it could all go out if you don't. And I said, and you ought to think of getting into song publishing.
For a business, you ought to think about music publishing. It's because it's very good business. You love music. I'm into it. It does very well. It's a nice, easy business for a musician to be in. And it's a very rewarding business, because it's It's music, songs, beautiful songs.
He was trying to tell Michael that investing in music catalogs and publishing rights was the right thing to do. It was a smart investment. And Michael took this advice to heart, in the same conversation even insisting that he would buy Paul's music one day. However, as bold as it sounded, Michael wasn't joking, and it ended up being one of the best financial moves he ever made. At this time, Paul was pretty deep into the music publishing investment game. He owned a bunch of songs and catalogs. He learned this the hard way though, after being almost forced to sell the rights to the Beatles music in the 60s. This was due to a tax problem in Britain at the time, and to avoid paying about 90% on their earnings. So to dodge this, he created Northern Songs Ltd. and later took the company public. While this was a smart move at the time, the decision ended up turning bad in 1969 when the Beatles publishers sold their shares of the company to Britain's Associated Television, also known as ATV. Sound familiar? None of the Beatles members or any other shareholders of Northern Songs were aware of this sale or even able to prevent it regardless. When they did eventually find out about it, counterbid attempts were made, but in the end failed, which means not only did they lose the majority of their company, but they also lost the publishing rights to their music. The whole ordeal ended up becoming an example in the industry of why you should never sell your music's publishing rights, a lesson which Michael learned a lot from himself. Throughout the next few years, Michael started buying up decent sized catalogs across the industry, at first passing up on most of the options presented to him, only buying music which he had an affection for. But when Michael's career really started taking off, he had a ton more money to play with, which led to him diving deeper into the publishing game. Eventually in 1985, Michael's team approached him about the massive ATV catalog being up for sale, asking if he wanted to make an offer. Initially, he was only buying copyrights, but the ATV package came with a bunch more, including studios, equipment, and even life insurance policies, which was common for publishers to take out on their biggest artists, one of which was for Paul. Apparently, over the years, Paul had made some weak attempts to bid for ATV, but never anything worth considering. It's believed that Paul just really wanted his music and not the thousands of other songs and things that it came with. However, since the Beatles tracks made up a significant portion of the catalog's value, it was hard for ATV to agree to selling one without the other. And eventually, Michael decided to buy ATV Publishing for $47.5 million, which officially granted him ownership to thousands of songs, including 251 Beatles songs. When Paul became aware of this, he was pretty pissed off at Michael, and he said, "I think it's dodgy to do something like that, to be someone's friend and then buy the rug they're standing on." Michael allegedly tried to call Paul many times to talk things out, but in his frustration, Paul hung up every time. As more time passed, Michael used the Beatles songs in numerous projects, profiting significantly off the publishing rights. In response, Paul reached out a bunch and tried to prevent this, arguing that the music being used in commercials and other things cheapened it. But Michael continued saying that, oh, it will only make the music bigger and more people will hear it and give you more exposure. In 1990, Michael and Paul finally met to discuss their problems.
But I do intend to have a word with him. I spoke to him in LA, actually.
You did?
Yeah, and said, look, we've got to come to a good understanding here, because there are a number of things I don't like about how he runs the company. In our case, the trouble is, like the Nike thing that came up, I don't know if you heard about that, but the trouble is that we never did do commercials. With the Beatles, we had all those offers.
Paul said to Michael that he was basically tricked into selling his copyrights while he was young, and now he feels betrayed that his old friend is using this mistake to profit off his music. Michael was claiming that he didn't mean to hurt anyone by doing this, and he was confused. Shortly after this, Paul's attorney reached out to Michael's team and stated that the two artists agreed that Paul's royalties for his music would be increased. However, when Michael's team asked him if this was true, Michael shot this down, saying they never agreed on it. And in response, Paul's team threatened to sue. Apparently, behind the scenes, Michael felt that Paul had many chances to buy his music back, but passed on them because he was too cheap. So now that he owns them and Paul has a problem with it, Michael believed he had no duty to make things right. Which, I don't know, from my perspective, look, I love Michael Jackson, he's dope, but that seems a little snaky.
Yeah, it is a little
Years later in
snaky.
2001,
He
Paul
on.
said, so we haven't talked and we don't have that great a relationship. The trouble is, I wrote those songs for
he
nothing,
played
and buying
chess,
them back
bro.
with these
You-
phenomenal sums, I just can't do
You
it.
know?
To which Michael responded, oh, Paul, that's just business. I love picturing him saying that in his
Oh,
voice.
Paul,
It's so funny.
that's
This
just
sentiment
business.
continued for years as Paul held a reasonable resentment towards Michael. Eventually, when he tragically passed, Sony/ATV purchased the final shares in a deal with Michael's family worth $750 million. Since Michael's passing, Paul has expressed that he no longer holds much anger about the situation anymore.
Well, he
While he
did.
still believes his initial response was valid, there's obviously no point in pursuing it any further. And in the end, in 2018, Paul was able to start getting a bunch of his music back from Sony/ATV through some legal loopholes following a lawsuit and a private legal settlement. So at the end of the day, it's kind of crazy. Paul got his publishing rights back like half a century later. This feud was very public and very direct, but Michael's beef with Prince was a lot more subliminal and spurred on by fans. While Michael Jackson dominated the music game for years, it's hard to talk about pop in the 80s without bringing up Prince. Both artists contributed to the genre in major ways. Throughout their respective solo careers, the two artists rose in step with each other, growing in an almost parallel way. In some cases, they both even dropped projects at the exact same time. Although, while their release schedule and rise was pretty similar, the content of their character and music was pretty contrasted. One fan said about Prince, he was always more risque and always pushed boundaries. Prince is indirectly why there is a parental advisory label on music with profanity. And they continued on with Michael saying, Michael Jackson was a star as a child. He was a lead singer of one of the biggest acts in music during the 70s. Therefore, he basically has two careers. One as a child and one as an adult. Michael Jackson was probably the greater entertainer. Funny enough, the two were born in the same year, only months apart, and both grew up in the Midwest. Surprisingly though, with all of these parallels, the two didn't get along very well. They ran into each other for the first time at the 1983 New Year's Eve James Brown concert, a legend that both young stars looked up to. For context, around this time the media had already been heavily pitting the two against one another, and at this show, James inevitably invited Michael up on stage to perform some of his songs. But since Michael wasn't the only star in the room, Michael whispered in James' ear and dared him to invite Prince on stage. Prince accepted and performed with his own little bit of flair. This was the first and the last time that Michael and Prince ever shared a stage. And after watching, you probably think there's not much negative to point out, especially since Prince clearly had the crowd screaming, even if he didn't sing that much. But when you look at the details, a bunch of things actually went wrong. Apparently his guitar was malfunctioning, and when Prince attempted to swing on the prop light pole, the entire thing fell into the crowd. Again, this doesn't seem too bad, but since it was at a major event in front of his idol, you could see how it felt a bit embarrassing. To make matters worse, Michael, who invited him on stage, mocked Prince relentlessly for this performance. And as a result, according to Quincy Jones, Prince even attempted to run Michael over with his car after the show, which, if that's true, is crazy. Their beef intensified further when Prince declined an invite from Michael to appear on the recording of the We Are the World charity single. So in the following year, Quincy Jones attempted to end the beef by setting up a collaboration between Michael and Prince on the song Bad. However, Prince again decided to turn down the offer. After the fact, Prince decided to explain to Chris Rock why he did that.
I remember
This is the story of you turning down Bad.
Well, you know, that Wesley Snipes character, that would have been me. All right, now you run that video in your mind. The first line of that song is, your butt is mine. Your butt is mine. Now I said, who gonna sing that to whom? Because you sure ain't singing it to me. And I sure ain't singing it to you. So,
in response to this and other sneak disses, Michael said in a later released audio recording for his 1988 Moonwalk memoir, I don't like to be compared to Prince at all. I have proven myself since I was real little. He feels like he's my opponent. I hope he changes because, boy, he's gonna get hurt. He's the type that might commit suicide or something. Mike added on saying, he was so rude, one of the rudest people I've ever met. Prince is very competitive. He has been very mean and nasty to me and my family, which is one of the few direct confrontations of this beef. In the following years, the two continued to have little run-ins here and there, with Michael repeating his attempts to bury the hatchet and Prince also repeating his denials. It wasn't until Michael's death that Prince appeared to experience a change of heart. After hearing about Michael's passing, Prince allegedly canceled rehearsal and went home where he locked himself in his room for days. In further interviews, he spoke on this saying, it's always sad to lose someone.
Y'all get the gist of it. Y'all get the gist of it. You already know how I do. Go watch the full video in the description. I'm pooped. But thank you guys for watching. Go watch that new Michael movie. It's dope. They do sugarcoat a lot. So don't think you're getting like cut and dry everything. But it is a really nice rendition of it. I can't lie. It's really nice. It's really good. So I love you guys. I don't know when this is coming out. I don't feel like editing anymore. So this might be tomorrow. You might be seeing this tomorrow. I love you. I will see you when I see you. Peace.